Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to talk about the stunning Tarot 5th edition. So those of you that have watched previous videos on my channel, you are aware that I didn't intend on getting a new deck until the end of the year, more or less. But then I saw the flip through or the very quick 5-minute video that Nova Mundi Tarot published about this edition. I'll put it on the link below. But it just encaptured me so much. I watched this 5-minute flip through nonstop with the music. She chose the best music to go with this deck. And I got it. I ordered it. It's a deck that is also from Spain, so being a European customer, it was just something very easy for me to get in that sense. But I do want to justify myself that I did manage to give the Forest of Enchantment Tarot to my sister. So even though, financially it was, of course, avoidable in terms of not making my collection bigger, not adding another deck, that is still successful because I just exchanged one deck for another deck, and I'm really happy about that because I'm still very, very overwhelmed by having too many decks at once and not wanting. I think like right now I have maybe 7 tarot decks, and that is way enough for me. I still feel like there's a lot of decks I want to go way more deep than I have. So now I promise I'm gonna try to not get a new deck until the end of the year, and seeing everything that happened in the past 2 weeks, which I will get into in the second part of this video after doing a thorough overview of this deck. I think it will be very easy for me to not get a new deck. For now, I'm just gonna put back this deck in order, and I'll do a flip through. I'll show also the different things that this deck is offering, and then I'll go into more personal journey with this deck and some spreads I've done with it in the second part of the video. So let's get into it. So this deck had the particularity of not being actually in order when getting it. So I thought it was still useful for the majority of us because we're used to, at least I am used to, watching flip throughs in order and being able to kind of look at them in that way. So yeah, I thought I would show it to you in order, but still give you some specifics of this particular deck. So this is a deck by Jonasa Jaus, and it's supposed to follow a Marseille type of approach. And some of you might remember from, again, previous videos, that I did study or started my study of tarot with a book that was about the Tarot de Marseille. So I wasn't feeling like particularly, stressed about that aspect of this tarot. I guess maybe it just means it's Marseille inspired because, as you can see, the Justice card is at number 8. And the Strength card is number 11. And in addition to that, in the minor arcana, you do have the representation of the different suits, so the sword and the wand, coin and cups on the cards in a very specific structure that you can use to decipher the message of the cards. Like the way that the elements are put together is an important aspect of studying this deck. But there is also an illustration, of course, which allows for a certain interpretation as well. I'm sorry, at the same time as showing you the cards, I am building this framework so we can kind of look at them all together as well. That is kind of an exercise I like to do when I get a new tarot deck. And since this one is supposed to be Marseille based, I really thought I would do it, because this is exercises that I get from the book that I've learned with studying Tarot de Marseille. Because one very important feature of the Tarot de Marseille is that it's very, like, numbering and numerology is very important in the minors, but also in the major arcana. And that the pairings of, like, the reason why there is a Roman numbering is because basically the number 8 and number 18 are supposed to have connotations. Number 7, 17 as well. Like, it's kind of two journeys. The first one kind of in the earth realm, and the second one in the sky realm. I don't know if that's going to make sense to anybody, but that is kind of what I've understood. And where, if you look at the names of the cards, and also kind of the illustrations in the Tarot de Marseille, all of the names of the cards going from the Magician to the Wheel of Fortune are things that are existing in the world, that are not fantastic or kind of magical, and that is also why Justice is normally in this first 10 cards of the Fool's Journey. And then in the second part, that's where you start having more magical elements or concepts that are supposed to get you even further into kind of this spiritual journey. So that's that. And then, so this is kind of the two series of cycles that you can go through. And then the Fool is normally a major arcana that has no number. And as you can see, that's definitely the case here. That Jonasa didn't put 0, she just put the Fool. And this is representing raw energy, like really like a card that is supposed to enhance kind of all the other cards it might be associated with. And there's a lot in the book I've read about the combo of the Fool and the World, where this is, the very beginning and this is the very end, and that those two cards, if you have them in this order, that is kind of a good thing. But if you have them in the second order, then that means you're kind of lost and not going anywhere. But I'm I'm digressing quite a bit here. So I just gonna try to zoom out as much as I can and show you all the major arcana in this little in this little representation here, which I think is very interesting. And also, I think in Tarot de Marseille, in the first series of 10, you're usually looking upwards. You're searching for meaning up. And then in the second, you are more like going down, going deep. And I think it maybe shows a little bit this directionality for those two series of the cycle in the major arcana. Now I want to move into the minor arcana. But first I want for that to show you the world card again. So as you can see on the world card, we have the different elements associated, and each element has this colors associated with them, which refers to the different suit, because in this tarot there is a very strong color scheme for each of the suit, which you can really find in the world card. And you can kind of, going through the minor arcana, realize that the elemental association with each suit is not the typical association, because, you know, the typical association is swords with air, cups with water, coins with earth, and wands with fire. And in this suit, this is absolutely not the case, and it is confirmed in the world card, because in here swords are associated with water, cups are associated with air, coins are associated with fire, and wands are associated with earth. So this can be maybe a little bit confusing for some people working with tarot, and might be something that could be, you know, so mind-bending and annoying for some people, that even if you like the deck, like, really be aware of that, and that you cannot rely so much on the things you know and learned about the tarot association with elements. It has been messing up with my head a little bit when working with this tarot. And because of that, and because it's still like the illustrations on the cards are very different from both Marseille and Rider-Waite and all of the systems that I've learned and worked with, I've just, again, like, started from scratch in a sense. And a little bit like the Tiger Tarot, treated this deck as a kind of game of its own, an oracle, something where I don't rely on previous knowledge. But since I, for now, have decided to try to work without the guidebook, because the guidebook for this deck is an online PDF, I guess, that you have to buy. It's not expensive at all, but I was just like, you know what, I don't want to be on my phone. I still don't have a printer. So I'm just going to try to use this deck with my own interpretation and so on. But I realized, because of the whole difference that this deck has, that it's very difficult to do my own interpretation, probably also because of what I'm going to get into in the second part of this video, that my life is a little bit of a mess right now, so it's very difficult to just have a lot of time to really get the messages of the cards. So I've been just like looking at the images and seeing how they make me feel, trying to see what the artist was trying to transmit through the image, and trying to stay as open as possible. But yeah, this deck has many secrets for me. So I'm still going to try to follow my own order of showing based on what I know of the Marseille, starting with the swords. So yeah, the suit of swords is very much about mermaids, water myth, water magic, which is kind of interesting to associate with the suit of swords again. And so that, as you can see on each card, there is really this this Marseille approach of creating different structures with the swords that can give you pointers also into how to interpret the cards, as I was saying. And I didn't know about this deck before seeing that flip through of this new edition coming out. But I really, really love the editing that has been done and the choice of colors. I'm a big color playing person, so I really like it. So once again, I'm creating a structure to give you another way of looking at this deck. So I put all the cards from 1 to 10, and I'm going to put the court cards the way that I've learned in that book about Tarot de Marseille. So here is what it looks like at the end. So if you want to see the full evolution, I don't know what to do with my lighting. So the page is usually always between the stage of 2 and 3, the queen between the stage of 4 and 5, the king 6 and 7, and the warrior or knights is usually at the end of the court card in the Tarot de Marseille, and going from 8 to 9. All right, let's move on to the next suit. And so after the swords in my knowledge comes the cups. Oh, and so as I said, the sword suit was really this kind of water realm feel, and then the cup suit really gives you 1001 Nights vibes, like kind of Arabian Nights tales, and I love the energy that is transmitted. Also, I want to note that my lighting is not the best somehow. Like today is a rainy day and I'm only working with no artificial lights. And the purple is not at all how it looks in my camera. It's a lot of a deeper purple, less blue. I don't know, more like kind of how it looks now. But with the contrasts my phone is making, it's just not working that way. So, you know how I believe that in Tarot de Marseille it goes from the suit of swords to the suit of cups to the suit of coins and then to the suit of wands. And I think it actually works here because in this warrior of cups, you can see a snake that the warrior is holding. And in the 10 of cups, you can also see snakes. And I think when we're going to get into the suit of coins, you're going to see how this is definitely an animal associated with the suit of coins. So there are kind of elements that can show this following of the cycle. But so here is the entire suit of cups. So now for the suit of coins, we have the association of the fire element. I like to show the 10 of the previous suit with the one of the new one. but I'll remove it now. And here are the snakes I'm talking about, and as you can already kind of guess, the association, still trying to make the focus better, the association for this suit is a kind of Egyptian mythology, and yeah, it's very visible that it is this. So there is really so much to study and to learn in this deck. Like if you were to go just suit by suit, there are so many stories and mythology that could be, you know, studied in combination with this deck. And then an interesting, again, in the suit of wands, the cat is definitely the animal energy that is portrayed. And in this 10 of coins, you have the cat. So again, this makes sense to me going from, in my logic of the order of which suit you go to next, that you kind of go towards the wands after the suit of coins. And so this is our full suit of coins. And so finally, the suit of wands. And for this one, as you can see, we are completely switching worlds. And we are going more towards kind of this witchcraft energy. I would almost say also like a little bit Celtic energy. So this is associated with the suit of earth. So we really have like 4 wildly different minor arcana suits with very different colors. Or not that different. There is a purple in here too, but it's a very different purple. And it's associated with green, whereas the purple in the other suit is associated with orange. But for this one, sometimes I find it a little bit confusing that it's earth suit that is associated with it, because there's also definitely air elements. So yeah, maybe I wouldn't get too hung up on the elemental association with this suit and more like focus on the energy and the world that the minor arcana suits are kind of taking you towards. And once again, I had mentioned how the cat for me was kind of the the animal spirit of this suit. And here it is again, well, in the 10 of wands, so I don't know. Once again, a mystery that I need to think about and try to solve. I'm gonna keep this one because I want to compare it with the warrior, because in my readings I have been a little bit confused. Oh, sorry, I forgot to show the Queen of Wands in details. I've been a bit confused about the difference between the Page of Wands and the Warrior of Wands. Those cards are somewhat similar to me. Because as you can see, well, it's interesting that the Page is the one that kind of represents more of a crone, and the Warrior is definitely more of a maiden. And they are both coming out of the forest with different tools and kind of, yeah, a very different stance, if you will. So yeah, another thing that I'm pondering a lot when working with this deck. But let me show you the final little overview of this suit. All right, now I'm gonna prepare some spreads that I've got and get into the final part of this video. Very quickly though, before I get into some spreads and personal journey, I just wanted to show one pairing I have been working with the Stunning Tarot, and it's in association with the Oracle of Portraits of a Woman, which I have talked about a lot in this channel, so I'm not gonna go into details about it. But so I just thought I would show you quickly how those two decks look together. I think out of all my decks, this is the one that pairs the best with Portraits of a Woman. Not necessarily, like, I think it's because the level of saturation of the colors is more or less similar. Of course, it's not a perfect pair, but yeah. I will just show a couple of cards and let you make your own opinion about it, and then we'll move on. Okay, and I'll show this one last. And now we're gonna get into spreads. For the deck, like the card representing the deck energy, I have got the Ten of Wands. And so obviously this kind of told me that this deck was very powerful and really at the very like master level of witchcraft energy, you know, based on what we have said in the flip through. So I was like, okay, this is a powerful deck. I already kind of guessed that from just my reaction to it and the artwork, which I really react to. And then when asking the deck what was my energy, I got the Magician, which I interpreted as somebody that had everything on her table, all the tools, all the things she needed, but that she somehow was not really knowing yet what to do with them. And also, kind of had a lot of opportunity to come, but yet nothing was starting at kind of really, really at the initial phase, which was kind of interesting at the time because I didn't feel particularly this beginner energy, And then I got so many major arcanas in this spread, so that's why it's interesting as well. For what the deck requires of me in working with this deck, I got the Moon, which is one of the most easy interpretation card, which is to kind of really look at yourself truly, like to face the truth, to face all the things that you prefer to have just hidden under the carpet. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna have to be really truthful with myself when working with this deck. And then about what we might work on together, or what I would learn, I got the Strength card. I think this is a great Strength card. It shows really this kind of Sphinx figure with like really aspect of strength that we associate with strength, so like really strong and fear-looking paws, but then you also have this very human figure and those very delicate wings, and the idea of just putting them all together and accepting yourself is kind of what is coming at me in this card. And I often associate the Strength card with work on confidence, so that's how I understood it. And finally, for the greater purpose, I got the World card, and it's a card that from the work I was doing with the previous deck I've been working on, which is the Tiger Tarot, is just always coming up. So the greater purpose being the world, obviously showed as like realization. It's also this like woman representation in this kind of almost like amniotic fluid, like, like rebirth or realization, rebirth, kind of, I associated it more positively in this reading, that it would be belonging in the universe or something. So that's I think the second spread I've done after just doing a quick one to see how it worked. And now we're gonna get into the nitty-gritty. I have been having like issues in my relationship for a little bit of time, like having doubts, going back and forth. It's been a couple of months of struggle. I am in a 6-year-long relationship. And at the time where I've done the interview spread and so on, I was really in this resolution that I personally still had things to work on in my relationship to make it work. And I was like really boosted and motivated to keep going, to keep fighting, to keep making it work, to see it positively and stop this cycle I was stuck on of being good with my partner and then arguing and having a lot of doubts about continuing, and then having hope again, and kind of this hopeless cycle. And when I did this spread, I was still, very motivated to make it work, but I still had some doubts gnawing at me about whether our lifestyle was compatible, about whether we had really not gone into different directions and were unable to make them match again, like both of our path. But not in any like big sense, deep sense. I was just like, hey, there were like those little doubts like in the back of my mind. What do you think about them? And I just did this 3-card spread. And the way I've been working when pairing it with Portraits of a Woman is always to get the Oracle card first. And when I just got this, I Am Beautiful, I was like, okay, what's the connotation with the question I'm asking? Like, okay, why? Thank you, But then, of course, in the guidebook, it always goes a bit deeper than what it looks like, and it's how beauty comes from the inside, from what you are going through, from living things, both good and bad. And yeah, so that was that. And then I was like, okay. And then I take the above and the below of that. And above was the Hanged Man, which was like, okay. I also had like something happening later that day, and I'm like, okay. And since I'm still doing daily spread, I was like, I guess today maybe I'm going to have a switch of perspective. And I took it as a positive that I would have a switch of perspective in my doubts, and that it would like make me realize my doubts were really coming from me, and that I would realize they were unfunded or didn't have like, you know, a ground to hold, and that this switch of perspective would make me stay with my partner. And then I had this Seven of Wands, and I had like the most difficult time understanding it below this spread, you know, as the card below, as the shadow part, because obviously it's a representation of Satan, and, you know, it can be both positive or negative. It's like, okay, I let all my inhibitions go, I do whatever I want, I have this confidence, you know, like the Seven of Wands is also about mastering your life, mastering a skill, being able to stand your ground, all of that. But at the same time, it also had all the, like, those women around. Like, I was really struggling. So I decided to clarify all of the cards on this spread, because I was, you know, confused by the Oracle card, confused by this one. The Hangman made more sense, because the Hangman, I think, in general is easier to understand as a card. Like, it just, well, there's this idea of powerlessness, but there's also this idea of taking a meditative state and to think and to see a new perspective. So I started by pulling a clarifying cards for the Seven of Wands, and I got the Warrior of Wands. And I was like, okay, I guess this is really a message to stand my ground. And that's how I took it. Then I took a card for the card in the middle, which was the Warrior of Cups. And that's where I was like, okay, does this mean that, like, somehow my partner is, like, not releasing me, and I need to get him to release me? Like, I had this idea, but then again, the Warrior of Cups, could it be also like, I don't know. I was like, okay, this is that. And then for the Hangman, I got the Three of Cups. And I didn't have the Rider-Waite system in my mind at all at the time. So I was like, okay, I guess it's again this idea of a new thought coming in and opening my world, kind of thing. And that was the spread. And then I get on with my day, and later that day, there was this one event that really, really changed my perspective, but not in the sense I had imagined, but instead, like, it really made me realize that my doubts and all of the things that I had been struggling with for the past months, like a very long time, were actually something that weren't just in my head, that I needed to act upon, and that I just had to make the step that I was scared of doing this entire time. And this card was also kind of in a more negative sense. And anyway, the next day of doing this spread, I took the decision of breaking up with my boyfriend. My 6-year-long boyfriend, with whom I was very committed of having my whole life with. And since then, I've just been in a complete mess of a life, because we had a lot of things to deal with. I will soon move out of this apartment. You know, everything that is involved in a separation I am going through with. I am still very convinced by my decision, and I feel good about it. And it's been, you know, up and down. But yeah, this is kind of, you know, this spread was the third spread I've done with the Stunning Tarot, and it has just become this deck of starting a really new life after a really big event that even though I feel like the cards were hinted at it for a long time, it really took a big step for me to actually act upon everything. And I quickly also, with this spread, wanting to go back to my previous video and me working with the book Women Who Run with the Wolves, where the last tale in the book is about the Handless Maiden and is associated with the descent into the underworld. So kind of associated with the tale of Persephone. I recommend you to just read the book or look up the tale of the Handless Maiden. But in any case, where I had done a spread with the Tiger Tarot, and so each card represents a descent into the underworld, where at the end of the descent, you have become yourself fully. You are not anymore an innocent maiden that is maybe not in control of her own life. And where you have kind of really embraced the wild, divine feminine. And when I did this spread, that's when I was like, really motivated to make everything work in my life, and where I thought I had things figured out, and that I needed to, work on the dynamic between being, a pillar in my community while not falling into the traps of the stereotypical woman that can become bitter and things like that. Anyway, I thought I had everything figured out, and that I was kind of towards the end of my descent, close to reaching wild feminine. And, I don't get the hanged man or hanged woman or hanged one card often. So when I got this card, it did remind me of this spread, which was the last time I got it, knowing that I don't have it often, where I did get the hanged woman as the second step of the descent, knowing that this first card is really the trigger of the descent. So yeah, I realized that I was having a lot of things still having to live through. But yeah, I like when there's this kind of connotation, and realizing that, okay, I actually I'm here, and I still, well, now I may be here, because I think this was when I took the decision, and now I'm because the step is, okay, I'm getting back into the Handless Maiden tale. This card represents when the dad sells his maiden, his daughter, to the devil. This card represents when the sacrifice happens and the Handless Maiden loses her hands. And this card represents when she leaves her parents' house, managed to, avoid the devil, and just goes wandering to try to find herself. And I am at this stage so bad right now. And yeah, I really want to just now keep this spread in my mind to, manage to keep a higher perspective. And yeah, I think I have one more spread to show you after this one that I did couple days ago, in the full kind of just showing you one of my daily pulls right now with the cards and what I do with them. And then the video will probably stop abruptly after that, so don't be surprised. Thank you for watching, and hopefully see you in my next one. Bye! So here's the reading I've got today with the Stunning Tarot. So the main card, the card I pulled, because I'm right now not really have the bandwidth to do any big spread or even having an actual question. I'm just every day wanting some guidance and something to focus my mind on during the day. But today, after a few days of really struggling to not to work with tarot, I still wanted to pull cards and to look at them and to have them in my mind, but I was not able to do the whole thing and to have a notebook nearby and to write down messages and interpretations and things like that. I just was really struggling to interpret the cards a lot, and just wanting to bask in the images is kind of what is happening. So I pulled the Ace of Wands, and this is a beautiful card to pull. I think aces always are showing, something new, usually positive. The fact that it's the wand suit and have to do with energy is also really nice. This card is also reminding me maybe that I can rely on the natural world, on finding comfort, finding peace in nature. I like that it's really within this forest environment. And yeah, it for me, the keywords that I would associate with pulling this card at this moment is new growth, new energy, and things like that. So above this card, so I pull one card and then I always take the above and the below. But so above we've got this beautiful Emperor card, and for that the first word that came to my mind was discernment. Like I really, this is a beautiful Emperor. Because usually I would put stability and things like that with the Emperor, but with associating the eagle, there's more this idea of discernment, of high perspective, and also of sharpness, of managing to not act very emotionally, but act out of just survival. And we are here, we are a prey bird, or at least like just kind of this idea that we are not supposed to have mercy for our enemies, or I'm sure at this point I will have already explained the context. And so for me, this card was a reminder to also just not get too contaminated by other people's emotion, and to get too much into other people's emotion and potential manipulation, and to just keep being discerning of what is true for me, and to keep my head high in a sense. And then below we have the Three of Wands, and again, like in association with the Emperor, she's looking pretty fierce. She's looking pretty angry to me. And also, the three... Oh, did I say Three of Wands? I meant Three of Coins. Normally we have more than one person in this card, but right now we have just those two pillars, her in the middle looking really determined, and then the back we have this kind of darkness, and even the light shining from this third coin is bothered by or is fighting against this darkness almost, or it feels that way to me. So it really means that, we are coming out of the darkness, but also like to not go back, like to not, now we move forward. And it makes sense also in the sense of the Three of Coins, that in the three you take action and you have invested your money, and it's time to take risk in a sense, and it's kind of, slightly coherent with where the rays are going. We are really telling you, okay, it's time to move forward. So for me today, this spread is helping a lot to still feel, of course, I truly believe nobody is reading tarot in a super objective way, so I'm reading whatever I want in the cards, but at least what I'm reading today is a message of strength and of keep going forward, and to not let myself dwell too much into doubts, no matter where their sources might be, and to just really not let potential grieving feeling that will emerge take control at this stage today. So here is today's spread.